Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. William Obu. Give a round of applause.
Okay. Hi, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. My name is Wills. God's will, Wills. Okay, yeah. So anytime I say my name is Wills, people are like, you mean tire? Or- so I tell them, okay, it's God's will, God's will, the wheels in God's will, yes. Okay, so my name is Wills Obu. I'm a product designer and also a productivity coach. I hope you can all hear me. Okay, so it's my pleasure to be here this morning to share with you. And it's kind of going to be an interactive class, okay? So I'm not just going to bore you with long talk. So it's going to be a very interactive class. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions. And also, I'll be asking some questions and I indulge your participation. Thank you very much. Okay, without further ado, let's head straight to the reason why we're here today. But I want to start with a story. I think it was in 1961 that the then president of the United States visited NASA. How many of us knows NASA? We know NASA, right? If you don't know NASA, you should know NASA. Go and Google it. Okay, NASA is the agency in charge for space. Okay, so John F. Kennedy visited that particular agency, and then while he was taking a walk, he saw a janitor. We know what a janitor is, right? It's a bougie name for cleaner. Okay, so when you just maybe you didn't go to school and an office hires you as the cleaner, they call you cleaner. But when you probably have like O level or you are BSc but Sapa made you pick up the job, they frame it well and call it janitor. So you can actually tell your friends, "Oh, I'm the janitor," and they are like, "That's nice." So he met one of the janitors and then a cleaner. He asked the man, he said, "My name is President John F. Kennedy. What's your name and what do you do here?" And the man looked at him and said, "I am helping to put a man in the moon." Do we get that?
Yes.
A cleaner. But he responded with, he is helping to put a man on the moon. He's not an engineer. The engineers are doing the job. Are we getting it? Now, this is just a story to illustrate why companies want to hire you. Okay? When you're joining a company, the company have what they call vision, mission, and goal. For so many people in Nigeria, especially those that are very used to 9 to 5, when they are hired, they are solely looking at 28th of every month. In some cases, second or third. In fact, if nothing happens by 5th, their mood changes. You can see it from the way they act, right? In fact, if the weather just changed, they won't go to work because they are expecting salary. Are we together?
Yes.
Majority of Nigerians, and even those of you shouting, "Yeah, here," you are part of them. So the essence and purpose of this class today is to change your mindset when it comes to work. Okay? Companies don't employ you to come and do what is on your job role. Are we together?
Yes.
If you keep doing what is on your job role and responsibility, no amount of prayer. Village people don't even need you to make sure you are not successful. They don't need any juju at all. Are we together?
Yes.
So today we want to take a look at creative and critical thinking. there are two things there: creative and critical thinking. And this is how you go about solving problems. Like I said, companies don't employ you. Yes, the company might put up a job, said they are looking for a secretary, or they are looking for a web designer, or they are looking for, what should I use? Yeah, they might put up a job post saying they are looking for so and so in quotes, and they list out the job roles and responsibilities and probably the akpala you receive at the end of the month. Then you finally get employed. At that point, when there is more to your duties and responsibility, but then the company will never tell you. So it's all about you bringing out what you have inside you. Okay? The difference between those who got this, you feel like something is missing today, right? Everybody just feels somehow. And you always have those that bring about changes in the office. Are we together? So today we are going to take a look at critical and creative thinking. Like I said, there are two things. We have creative thinking, we have critical thinking. We'll take a look at them and also take a look at some of the differences and how we can actually begin to think critically and creatively. But before that, I just want to put up something here. And can we see what's on the screen? So I want you to, I'm going to give you 1 minute to look at what you have on the screen, and then tell me what figure should represent or replace the question mark. If you have something to say, just raise up your hand and I will give you the audience. Okay. Okay. Figure 6. Okay. Let's have another person.
Figure 6 as well.
Figure 6. Okay. You know, something is happening right now. You know those kind of exams or paper you sit for, and then everybody's answering two. Meanwhile, your answer is like 1 billion. And you're like, now wow. Okay. In a normal interview, you only have 30 seconds for something like this, right? So this kind of exercises are used to test how you think and how you're able to process objects. Okay, that's fine. Any other? Okay, 6. Okay. Okay. He said 6. Okay, let's start with you. Why did you say 6? Yes, I'm back. Let's listen. Yes, you can come to us, of course.
This 1, join together, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, then 6.
How many of us agree with you? Okay. Okay, if you don't agree with him, what do you think should replace these symbols? Okay, thank you very much. The same reason? The same reason. Okay, thank you. Okay, this is just a little brain teaser for us to understand why we're having this class today. And yes, the answer is 6. 6. The reason why a lot of us failed this is because we are trying to think of a shape that looks like anyone. And the only one that first made sense to us is number 3, that looked like a petal, like a flower, right? Are you getting? And then in fact 2. Some of you were even contemplating whether it's P squared that should be there. Are we together? Now, at a point in this class, we are going to head to this, where we talk about divergence ideas. when you are presented with a problem, we have two ways at looking at that problem. Are we together? So we'll get to that point. So this is, and this is the difference between Onyibo and Nigerian. You hardly see this kind of questions come up when you go for interviews in most Nigerian companies. Reason being that already they know what they are paying you is nothing, so they don't even need your idea, because they know, if you are collecting 50,000 naira, I'm not sure there's any idea that can come out of your head aside how to maximize that 50,000 naira till next month. I think that's why sometimes in most workplaces you don't really see creativity, because majority of the time people are thinking of how that money can stretch. In Nigeria, I tell people a lot, after the oil industry, the biggest industry in Nigeria is the urgent 2K industry. It's very huge. People don't know the impact. Some people have increased to 10K, 20K, but then they know them as the urgent 2K industry. And it's one of the biggest industry in Nigeria. And that's what has been sustaining everybody, earning 50,000 naira a month. People are like, how do you survive? Yes, that's how they survive. Because the 50K comes in, which you probably use and pay off the debt from the previous month. Then you now reach out, you check your contact list. You have your shop plug. And then there are a lot of, now, you know what I'm saying. You have those that you check on them every three months in anticipation. Right? You line them up, you have everything. So you see all these people, they collect this 10,000, 5,000, add it to their 50,000, probably it's around 80, 100, and they live by it. And then life goes on. But then to be successful in this life, you have to really have the skill of critical and creative thinking. Because if you are unable to solve a problem in this life, I hate to break it to you, you will not enjoy this life. You stay where you are forever. Because this life is for those who are ready to solve problems. Are we together? So let's take a look at, like I said, the objective is to understand critical thinking, adopt divergent and convergent thinking to solving problems, apply critical thinking principles to focus. I don't know. Do you have any question? I'm sure by now you should know where this class is heading to. So this class is supposed to change the way you think, both the way you think about yourself and the way you think about everything else. So I don't know. If you have any question, can I have it now? Okay, we don't have any question. Okay, in the absence of no question, I'm going to proceed. So, critical thinking it's more than just gathering information. The person with good memory and knowledge of many facts is not necessarily capable of critical thinking. Critical thinkers can draw conclusions from what they know, use information to solve problems, and seek out relevant sources of information to inform themselves. Now, this is for violent teams. Being argumentative or critical of others should not be confused with critical thinking. Although critical thinking skills can be used to expose fallacies and poor reasoning, they can also be useful in cooperative reasoning and constructive task. How many of us knows about Socrates? Yes, okay, that's fine. And we all know his two main disciples that went ahead to change the world in philosophy. Yes, great. So these are actually great thinkers. So when you think, the important thing about thinking, although we have a lot of things in this world now, a lot of belief that stops you from thinking, and that's the issue again we have in Nigeria. Our schools teach us what to think instead of how to think. And that is why we have less critical thinkers in this part of the world. We have less of them. Most of them only present arguments. That's why in Nigeria, everyone keeps shouting, the government is bad. The government is bad. Which, do you think there's any good government in this world? There is no good government in this world, right? The only difference between you and the people in government is that the people in government said the current government is bad, and they did something to become the new government. While we say the government is bad, and that ends there. We don't do something. The same thing, you go to your workplace, you be like, I think I have this one lady I interviewed I consulted for a company, and then we interviewed the lady. And the question was, why did you leave your former workplace? And she said, they are into travel, they book tickets and things like that. And it just turned out to be that during this pandemic and the whole, after the pandemic and the whole, dollar naira issue, tickets are now expensive. So there were less customers. And then the CEO of the company decided to relieve some of the staff. And she happens to be one of them. And when immediately she said that was when I realized that, okay, this one is a salary worker. It's a salary worker, right? Any salary worker, if they relieve you, say, now wow, we try again. Then you go back to the job market. But these are situations and scenarios where you differentiate between salary worker and actually a real worker. Because in every challenge you face, in every business you are going to face challenges. So the question I now asked her is, what if you were the owner of the business? What would you have done differently? Will you just, for a don't cost, milk close everywhere? Are we together?
Yes.
Now, when you are hired in a company, this is how companies want you to think. They will not tell you. But this is what differentiates those that will be sacked and those that will be kept. This is basically what, when you are in a company, the companies have HR have a way of measuring impact of every staff in that company. Some of you might not be critical thinkers. There are people that they are very good in, they are so loyal. You can always send them to buy you food anytime. So those type of people, it's also part of why most people will be retained in companies. Maybe by the time the board of executive will be discussing, they'll be like, leave that one. He's always going around buying us food. And then they'll leave that one. But then, it's all about providing what? Solutions. Are we together? So to be able to do this, to be able to create solutions, you have to be able to know how to think creatively and also think critically. Right? You don't always think critically when you are thinking creatively. They are two different things. So we're going to understand the differences and also know how to do them. Are we together? So what exactly is critical thinking? So critical thinking is a mode of thinking about any subject, content, or problem in which the thinker improves the quality of his or her thinking by skillfully taking charge of the structures inherent in thinking and imposing intellectual standards upon them. This is a definition by Paul and Alder, 2001. Now, this is English, right? Sometimes when we read this English like this, we think we know, but we don't know. Then we move to the next slide. So when we talk about critical thinking, it deals with three major things. In critical thinking, you analyze ideas. Are we together? In critical thinking, you what? You analyze ideas. In critical thinking, you are also comparing and judging. Are we together? I have a call. Okay, let me just leave it. So in critical thinking, you are what? Analyzing ideas. You are comparing, and also you are trying to decide which one of these is the best. That is critical thinking. And the truth is, you can't be a critical thinker if you don't read. if you are not, fast, you can't be a critical thinker. And now we'll get to the point where you understand why you can't be a critical thinker if you are not well versed. Are we together? Good. And like I said, ability to what? Analyze ideas. When you are a critical thinker, right, you have to be able to analyze what? Ideas. You have to be able to compare. I think, how many of us knows about the Bloom's taxonomy? We should all know what Bloom's is now. Bloom's taxonomy. We don't know what Bloom's taxonomy is. Now, wow. So write it down. Go and read about Bloom's taxonomy. It's going to help you to learn anything in life. Bloom's, B-L-O-O-M. So taxonomy is going to help you learn anything in life, right? It kind of categorizes how you learn. He said at the first stage, you have to get knowledge. In knowledge, you should be able to define things, And that's why in Nigeria, a lot of us don't get to the last part. In primary school, I'm not sure anybody was asking you to create hypotheses in primary schools. I'm not sure. In primary school, we were just going to be defining things, and now it's the name of a person, animal, place, or things. You keep defining. But there is a point whereby you need to be able to what? Implement and then analyze. Are we together? So I want you to go and actually take a look at that Bloom's taxonomy, and when you understand it, anything you want to learn in life, make sure you apply. Make sure you apply this. I think there are like 5 steps. Make sure you apply them, either 5 or 7. Now, features of critical thinking. In critical thinking, you are looking at how and how it's not supposed to be. Okay, so I'm just going to brush through because this class is more of an explanation and communication and interaction than just writing what you see on the slide. And we also have the critical thinking framework, components of critical thinking, the elements of thoughts, the intellectual standards, intellectual threats. Okay, so these are all things you can actually read later, but I don't want us to spend this short time we have trying to read through slides. Okay, if we read through all the slides, you still won't know how to think critically. So there is a lot to cover today, and that's why I just want to run through. But if you see something that and also taking notes, those of us taking notes, take notes that affect you. A lot of us, whenever we go to church, pastor is preaching, nobody reads it at home. If I want to go and you drop it, next Sunday you dust it and continue your life. But when you're taking notes, take notes that okay, probably, like I said, that Bloom's taxonomy is very important for you to know. That's why I said write it down. Okay, so you can go and read about it. So you can sometimes what you just need to do is to write components of critical thinking. Then you go and study for that. Because this thing that's not even up to 100 words cannot explain what component of critical thinking is. Are we together? But we're just giving you like a brief point so that you can go further and read. But like I said, I would rather use this 1 hour plus to really explain and be more practical with it than just going through the slides. Then element of thoughts, purpose, attempt, assumption, the point of view. So purpose is a part of our thinking that includes defining the topic's goal or objective. While the attempt part includes the attempts that previously addressed the topic or attempt to solve the problem. And when we talk about assumption, before solving a problem, we don't have much information about the topic. Therefore, we build assumptions to act as the base of our research about the issue. We usually start with inductive inferences, then we use the research data to validate these assumptions. The point of view includes the personal perspective we take while thinking about the topic. For instance, we can think about the product from the consumer perspective rather than the business perspective. Like I said, English, I know, but we'll still explain. Okay? I just want us to go through. We'll still come back to some of these slides. I just want to run through it so you see where we are headed to. Okay? And then we have the intellectual standards. These are some of the elements that are used to determine the quality of reasoning. We have clarity, we have accuracy, we have precision. Okay? And relevance as well as depth, and then breadth. Logic and significance, fairness, and these are the threats. Like I said, we'll still come back to this when we start explaining. So this is the first place I want us to take a look at first before we go further. When you talk about critical thinking, there is only two ways to it: divergent, convergent thinking. How many of us have heard about this phrase, think outside the box? It looks simple to do, but I can assure you none of us know what to do. Can I prove it? How many of you sing here? Who is a singer here? You are a singer. Thank you. Do you know that this singer here, if he tells you, maybe he's trying to coach you to sing, he tells you something like, breathe from your diaphragms. It's easy. Everybody understands breathe from. I have breathed from diaphragm. But him, he's able to just do it, right? And then you are like, what is breathe from your diaphragms? Seems so easy, but then do it now. You think it's breathing from your nose. Because you think you know, you breathe from diaphragm. I'm breathing from my. Where do you want me to breathe from before if it's not from my diaphragm? I get it. So first of all, I want you to understand when you say think outside the box. Everybody knows. Think outside the box. If I tell everyone think outside the box now, the chances are you are going to do nothing at the end of the day. Because the problem with think outside the box is most people don't know what the box is. Who can explain? What do you understand by think outside the box? Someone should explain to me. Anyone? Okay. 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 Okay, you can speak. I can hear you.
Thinking outside the box, like thinking outside what you're seeing.
Okay.
You say thinking outside the box, they should give you a pen.
Yes.
For example, they give you a pen and tell you to take it outside. If you think outside the box, think of another way of taking this pen outside. Normally, you just pick this pen and take it outside. But when you say taking outside the box, like bringing another method that ordinarily you won't think about the first time. Something that one has to go through the process of critical thinking. So maybe instead of taking this pen outside with your hands, you find a way like putting it instead of taking the pen. You take it outside the box now. You take this pen outside now. Okay, ordinarily you say you take the pen inside the bag. You put it inside the bag and take it outside. Taking outside the box now, you might decide to leave the pen here and go outside and send someone to come and pick the pen for you.
You are still in the box.
It was that.
Okay, let's hear from you. I think okay. After you. Yes.
My own understanding.
That's what I want to know.
Thinking outside the box is thinking differently, doing it differently from what used to be done, having a different approach. That's my understanding.
So how do you have a different approach?
To have a different approach, maybe in solving a problem that exists in an organization, you have to think about new ideas that go with a challenge.
Okay.
For example, everybody's aware. You yourself, you are aware. Then you have been using a particular solution. They were pushing and there's no